Hello and welcome to the News9 Plus show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. A destroyer, a frigate and a submarine, all being commissioned on the same day. On Wednesday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will commission the destroyer Surat, the frigate Nilgiri and the submarine Vakshir into the Indian Navy. This is an impressive achievement. It's a shot in the arm for the Indian Navy and it's a tribute to India's indigenous shipbuilding capabilities. Now it comes at a time when Pakistan and China are upgrading their naval fleets. China is already the world's largest navy. It has 234 warships and submarines. And believe it or not, China adds one Indian navy that is over 100 warships every 8 years. Pakistan, despite its economic worries, plans to become a 50 warship navy in the next decade. This is a major worry for the Indian Navy, the preeminent regional power in the Indian Ocean. And joining me to discuss these developments are Commodore Srikanth Kesnur and Commodore Ashok Khaitan. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show. Commodore Kesnur, I want to start by asking you this. It's a Kumbh Mela of sorts for the Indian Navy. A destroyer, a frigate and a submarine all being commissioned on the same day. Was there a plan to this 3-in-1 commissioning? What's the message that we are sending out here with this?
You said it right. It is the Navy's Kumbh Mela movement, or triple triumph as I've called it. And I think it's a auspicious set of circumstances coming together that 3 ships or 3 combatant platforms got ready at about the same time. There's significance in the fact that the last of the destroyer line, the Project 15, Surat, sort of segues into the first of the frigate line, that's the Nilgiri. Similarly, you also have the last of the Scorpion design, but Indian-built Vakshir. So I think certainly we're making a statement. It's formidable combat strength, formidable accretion of assets. And certainly, if it is a coincidence, it's a wonderful one. It's a serendipitous one. And I'm sure people who ought to be taking note are taking note of what this means and how it adds overall, not just to our combat capability, but is also a demonstration, as I said, of our shipbuilding prowess.
It's
and then there's, of
a
course,
demonstration of our
historical
shipbuilding prowess indeed, Commodore Kesnur. But I want to ask Commodore Khaitan this. Commodore Khaitan, you've headed shipbuilding at our largest private sector firm, Larsen & Toubro. Now, it's a company that the country is proud of for building everything from patrol vessels to ballistic missile submarines. Despite what you're seeing on social media, we're all incredibly proud of L&T's achievements in nation building. But I want to ask you this: what is the significance of tomorrow these 3 combatants being inducted into the Indian Navy simultaneously? What does it say about our shipbuilding capabilities, how they've evolved over the last couple of decades?
See, this is a demonstration of India's design capability and manufacturing capability both together. Added to it is the development of the equipment, because if you see it, the Project 15 Bravo, of which the Nilgiri is the Surat is a ship, and Surat is a ship which is a Project 15 Bravo, last ship, that's the 4th ship. It's a follow-on ship of the Project 15 Alpha. And before that, Project 15 were the initially conceived, the gas turbine destroyers. They were the first destroyers taken up by the Indian Navy for the design and construction indigenously. Now we have come to Project 15 Bravo, which has got much more high capacity. It can take 3 helicopters, has got housing or hangars for
Right.
2 helicopters. It has got a large endurance. I don't want to tell you the actual figures. It can exceed the speed of 30 knots.
Right.
It is equipped with missiles. It is equipped with the torpedoes. It is a totally net-centric operations. It has got net-centric operation capability. It has got capability to detect enemy at a far long distance.
Yes.
It can be actually a lead ship of the fleet also, in case there is a requirement arises.
Absolutely. Yes.
And the ship has got a huge endurance. It can stay at sea for prolonged period with and if the ship is fueled en route, and then it can the stay can be extended further.
Absolutely.
The
Ships with long legs, as you mentioned, Commodore Ketan. Commodore Kesnur, I just want to highlight what Navy Chief Admiral Dinesh Tripathi mentioned in December at his press conference. He said that the Pakistan Navy was growing to become a 50 warship Navy. They've chosen weapons over welfare, he said. And the other interesting fact that he mentioned, Admiral Tripathi said that how China was helping to build the new Pakistan Navy, supplying them with 8 conventional submarines and of course frigates and the capability to build them. You know, I'm aware of the fact that you are one of the commissioning crew of the INS Delhi almost 3 decades ago, the first ship of the class, and we are seeing the last ship finally with the Surat. But you know, when the INS Delhi was commissioned, you didn't have this China-Pakistan nexus as strongly as you have today, which the Navy Chief highlighted. How does this, alter our maritime posture? The fact that earlier you were looking at primarily one adversary in the Indian Ocean, but now you're possibly looking at 2 with China entering the Indian Ocean as well.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, like you talk of two-front war on land, I think you have to look at these two people colluding, cooperating, and collaborating at sea.
Right.
And that can happen not just in wartime, but in peacetime too. It can happen in terms of bases, it can happen in terms of sharing of intelligence, it can happen in terms of assets.
Yes.
And obviously, China is helping Pakistan. So, see, Pakistan being China's cat's paw is not something new. But the
Yes.
fact that it is getting so much hardware is a matter of concern, and I think it must concern the decision makers in Delhi. Now, how we sort of look up to this challenge, there are no easy answers, as the title of one book says. But what we have to do is not rest on our laurels,
Yes.
up our shipbuilding and our submarine building, capabilities even more. Bring out ships at a much faster rate, because we have to have that sort of differential.
Yes.
Yes, it is true that geography favors us to some extent,
Yes.
but we got to maintain a sizable asymmetry with Pakistan, which was
Yes.
there, as you brought out, 30 years ago when we commissioned the Delhi. There was
Yes.
sizable asymmetry between India and Pakistan, and that is threatening to come down.
Yes.
And increasing Chinese collusion will make it even more of a level field. So we got to strive to enhance that, and which is why I think having these 3 ships is a very good step. But
Yes.
it is a first step in building. We should look at a 150 ship, 200 ship navy. I mean, that's what we should aim for.
Yes, absolutely. A 150 and a 200 ship navy. But Commodore Ketan, the point that Commodore Kesnur made is the fact that we need to ramp up our shipbuilding capabilities. Now, the Vakshir is the last in a series of submarines, 6 submarines that were ordered almost 2 decades ago. The Surat is the last in a series of destroyers which began building almost 3 decades ago. The next destroyer and the next submarine are at least a decade away, if not less. Between 7 and 8 years is the best estimate for both. These are unacceptable if you look at it. The numbers that we project that we would need to maintain the maritime edge in the Indian Ocean. As a shipbuilder, how do you suggest we ramp up our timelines to meet this threat from 2 fronts, as Commodore Kesnur mentioned? The fact is that what is lost on a lot of people is the fact that these are incredibly complex platforms, destroyers, submarines. They take several years to build. It's not like fighter aircraft which you can buy in a matter of months. They take years to build, 7, 8 years. How can you ramp up the existing shipyard and shipbuilding capabilities?
I agree with my colleague, and I just want to have I want to just say make some suggestions on this front. Especially, see, all the warships at present, if you look at it,
Yes.
all the 3 are being built at Mazgaon Dock Limited, and the shipyard has that Mazgaon Dock MDL has got a very limited capacity. They take long time to build the ship. We have shown in Larsen and Toubro,
Yes.
the ship which was being built earlier in one of the public sector shipyards in virtually 5 to 6 years' time, we could build the same ships in 2.5 years' time, half the
Right.
time. The reason being the private sector does have the energy and they have a motivation, and the procedures are so clear and they are so fast that they can overcome all these hurdles of supply chain management,
Right.
which generally becomes a major bottleneck for the public sector shipyards. The second point is that the private sector shipyards can hire the talent as required basis and can augment the resources to produce the ships faster.
Right.
The third thing is that the most important thing is that the procedural that public sector shipyards get embedded in more, get entangled more in the procedural issues, which can be easily put aside by the private sector shipyards.
Right.
You look at the USA and Koreans, majority of their shipbuilding programs are being done in the private sector yards.
Right.
Whereas in our country, all the frontline ships or high value orders are being given only to the public sectors, which is starts with the making the things that very slow. And the second point, though I should not criticize the government here, but I want to say that if the public sector shipyards, the price shoots up, the government supports and makes it up. So the
Right.
public sector shipyard knows finally that even if they delay the program, finally they will be compensated, which is not done for the private sector shipyards. Definitely.
Right. So you're saying that the public sector shipyard is the favored child and the private sector is not. It's given the Cinderella's treatment. But Commodore Kesto, how do we harmonize both private and public? Because at the end of the day, as a taxpayer, I'm interested in more bang for the buck, and I don't care if the ship is built in a private shipyard or a public shipyard, as long as it comes on time, it's equipped with all the modern equipment and weaponry. How can we synergize public and private to give India the best deal when it comes to building warships?
Absolutely, I go with what Commodore Khaitan says broadly, that I think there is certainly, for better bang for the buck, we need to involve the private sector shipyards much more. We need to trust and believe that they can deliver. And certainly, without getting into specifics, the L&T is a very credible name. I think you got to make the public and private sector, as you say, talk to each other better. Probably one, if I'm not wrong, the fleet support ships are being built in such a model where HSL and L&T are,
Yes.
are doing the work together. So we could probably look at that even if the government desires for certain reason that the front end be the public sector guy, he's actively collaborating with a credible private sector person. But I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that this is a situation that need all hands on the deck. So whether it is PSUs or private sector
Right.
or anyone who is into shipbuilding, including commercial shipyards otherwise, which can build hulls and that you can retrofit with weapons elsewhere. This is a situation that calls for much more synergized battle stations approach if we
Right.
want to build more ships and more hulls. And private certainly should partner the public in a more vigorous way, and the government should bring them in.
Commodore Ketan, tell us how this fleet support ship contract is evolved, and is that possibly a model for this private-public cooperation going forward, getting both private and public synergies to work together?
No, I do support the private and public synergy, but at the same time, you see that when the private sector becomes a subcontractor to the public sector, the synergy levels do not attain the requirement which is expected from them.
Right.
The reason being, then what happens? The second man is dependent on all the supplies from the first company.
Right.
Okay, and if the first company happen to be the public sector, then their procedures will slow down the working of the second company also.
Yes.
Which is a private sector shipyard.
Right.
So it doesn't work very well unless and until both are partner in equal terms.
Right.
For, for example, if the government gives the order to public and private together for the same ship, let's say, 4 ships are to be built, 2 let it be built in private, 2 will be in the public sector at the same price, let's say,
Right.
friend. And let's see, so to generate a competition between the two, who
Right.
produces a ship faster.
Yes.
Okay, so then everybody will try to do the best. Now what has happened, since it is a nominated yard,
Yes.
the order is there, guaranteed, okay, so they do the time. You just take the example of the aircraft carrier program,
Yes.
which I headed this program. I was a program director of this,
Right.
okay. When we conceived the program, aircraft carrier, Indigenous, we expected the ship to be delivered in 2012 December,
Right.
okay, after trial. And now you see the ship has been delivered in 2022. So it's a gap of 10 years. Now this 10 years gap is indirectly leads to the increase in pricing of the project
Yes.
also, because the
Yes.
escalation takes place. And
Absolutely.
not only that, whatever you have bought earlier, that need to be reserviced. So you
Right.
pay more money for that. And
Right.
second thing is that you get practically a new ship becomes a second-hand ship after 10 years time.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, because everything is now 8 to 10 years old in the ship, if you
Right.
look at it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So
the
there's a
majority of
need.
that.
Yes, absolutely. There's a need to bring down these time and cost delays, and because at the end of the day, it's a limited budget that you're talking about, Commodore Ketan, and the fact that we don't have too much of a defense budget hike either. And I was going to talk about another conundrum, Commodore Kesnur, the fact that we have a fairly robust warship building capability in India. We have something like 50 warships being built or on order. But at the same time, we have an anemic commercial shipbuilding line. We are almost entirely dependent on imported foreign ships for our needs, merchant ships. How can we synergize our civil and military requirements to become a maritime power? Because we are going to be the world's third largest economy by the end of this decade, and we need more ships, be it merchant ships or warships. While we're doing very well on the warship front, the commercial shipbuilding side leaves much to be desired. Is there something for a holistic national shipbuilding policy that you think we must work on post-haste?
Yes, we must work post haste, but if we want to look at something positive, I believe that's happening. Recent statements from the, let's say, authorities have indicated that this has been taken note of, and whether it's the shipping minister or other important functionaries, I think this has become an area that's both of concern and something that they realize it has to, because it is a strategic vulnerability at the end of
Yes.
it. If you don't build ships, you are not going to get your trade on your flagged ships, and you've got to pay a lot, particularly now when you have these things like maritime security threats from Houthis and all that,
Yes.
and tomorrow it could be something else. So long as you are dependent on foreign hulls, I think it is a huge strategic vulnerability. In fact, I understand that after fuel, it is the hiring of ships that takes up most of your money. So we need there too. And I think some sort of a modular construction approach or
Yes.
a collaboration amongst all the shipyards, greater incentives to private shipyards, making that seen as a business where you can get easy loans and encourage shipbuilding. I
Right.
think you need to do all of this, because this is a huge area. There is no point, much as we are proud about the Navy building warships, and we ought to
Yes.
be, there is no point if you only have a warship building program and don't have a merchant ship. It's like a cricket team where one batsman is like Tendulkar, but if the others don't pull in enough, then
Yes.
then you're ultimately not going to do much.
Right.
So merchant shipbuilding program is something that the government ought to be giving the highest priority. But
Yes.
from what I understand in my discussions with the authorities in Delhi, and I'm
Yes.
probably just as informed as anyone, as you guys are, but I think it's been noted and noticed, and it's being taken up with due diligence and speed.
Absolutely, it's been noted and noticed, but all of these take time to
They do.
materialize, because
They do.
shipbuilding is such a complex, a domain, and the fact that ships take years to build, unless you're building like
Yes.
Liberty ships, like the Americans built during the Second World War. But Commodore Ketan, as a shipbuilder, What is the areas that you think we should focus on? As Commodore Kestur mentioned, the civil-military fusion that we need to bring about to ensure that not only do we have a robust shipbuilding for the military and for the Indian Navy and the Coast Guard, but you also have an equally robust merchant shipbuilding line, which we seem to lack right now. How can the shipbuilding capabilities of the country be leveraged to serve both civil and military?
Shipbuilding requires a complete ecosystem to be developed. It is not only the hull, which is important. Hull is a very small part of the whole ship. If you look at it, it's not even 30% value. Okay, value-wise. Okay, value and effort-wise. The major effort involved is in the equipment, and for the commercial ships programs, we are mainly dependent on imports because none of the class approved equipments are being manufactured within the country. Majority of them are not being manufactured.
Right.
When we come to the warships,
yes,
Indian Navy took a great effort, I will say, to indigenize the equipment of their own need.
Right.
Okay. Because of which today the P-15 Bravo ship, which we are going to, the INS Surat, which we are going to commission on 15th, has got almost the indigenous content of almost 75%.
Right.
There also, even the gas turbines we are not manufacturing, we are still importing.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, but in case of weapons, sensors, we have come far away.
Yes.
We have covered a long distance and indigenized the things. In case of commercial ships, that has not taken place. The reasons are two. Mainly because there is no volume.
Yes.
Because without volume, no company comes forward to take up this assignment.
Absolutely.
And if you look at it, the Korean shipyards, they were, when we go back to 1975, we were ahead of the Koreans and Chinese.
Yes.
Okay. In 1975, Koreans started building tugs, and with the commitment of the government to subsidize all the programs, and they gave the finances and funding at the rate of 2 to 3% interest.
Absolutely.
With assured orders of all government assured orders to all shipyards equally distributed.
Right.
Okay. The same way, our pharmaceutical company, you see how much distance we have covered. Now we are one of the major importers of the pharmaceutical items to the world.
Commodore Ketan, I'm afraid we're completely out of time here, but thank you very much for highlighting this Achilles heel in our capabilities. That's shipbuilding. We're good on military shipbuilding, as we're just going to see in a few hours from now, where the Indian Navy will commission 3 frontline warships, a destroyer, a frigate and a submarine. It's almost unprecedented, but there's a requirement for an all-hands-on-deck approach when it comes to shipbuilding, both commercial and military in India, if India is to be the world's 3rd largest economic power at the end of the decade, as is being projected, because without being supreme at sea, you cannot be a power of consequence. Thank you very much for joining us, Commodore Kestur and Commodore Ketan.